morning, everyone, and welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and today we have a lot going on to catch up about as well, including my terrible prediction of what was going to happen in yesterday's game with the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. They totally proved Ben 100% correct with his most recent prediction, and me, of course, terribly wrong. So we do have to get into that a little bit later on in the show, as well as one of my favorite basketball players right now, Anthony Davis, and his most recent injury. I tell you, if his body could just get on track with what he is trying to do, he would be a phenomenal, he is a phenomenal player, but if his body could just really keep up for what he is trying to do, then there's no telling how much more of a dominant force that he would be in the league, as well as getting into some college hoop news and some news around the college basketball court. So let's get started with some recaps of yesterday's games, yesterday's matchups. First game is the Hawks and the Knicks. The Hawks narrowly escaping from the Knicks, 108-107. Dennis Schroeder, who we talked about yesterday with that conflict with Isaiah Thomas, he actually was a top scorer for the Hawks, 28 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Carmelo Anthony put up 30 points himself, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists for his team, the Knicks. And again, the Knicks are another team who, if they can just get everything on board and get everyone focused. Again, I know that they're having a lot of things going on as far as in personal lives with a lot of their players there, that if they could just get on the same board, they wouldn't lose these games by 1 point or even much more deficits like we've seen in the past few games. Moving on to the Trailblazers and the Wizards. Damian Lillard put up 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists for his Trailblazers. However, it was not enough to keep off the Wizards. The Wizards defeating the Trailblazers 120-101. Markieff Morris, he put up 17 points, 13 rebounds, a double-double for him with his 5 assists. The 76ers took on the Bucks yesterday, defeating them 113-104. Joel Embiid, he's a guy that's having a really good breakout and outstanding year this year. 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists for that center over there with the 76ers. And of course, Giannis had his 23.6 rebounds and 2 assists. He is consistently, Giannis, we're always talking about him. He's doing very well for his Bucks, even though, they did suffer a loss yesterday. He is continually putting on the team on his back and making sure that he is consistent with being the top performer for his squad. And then the Pelicans and the Pacers. The Pelicans barely lost to the Pacers 95-98. Terrence Jones for the Pels had 15 points, and 8 rebounds. The Pacers defeating the Pelicans at home. Jeff Teague had 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. So he himself also had a double-double. But the story with the game, with that game, is actually Anthony Davis. So poor Anthony Davis, like I said, if his body could just keep up with what he is trying to do, he actually had a run-in yesterday and fell on his back pretty hard. Okay, so he fell pretty hard on his back. He was able to, after a little bit, stand up and shoot some free throws, but he did have to very gingerly walk back to the locker room where they did x-rays. And as of right now, those x-rays did come back negative, both on his hip and pelvis. Basically, his lower back was what was really hurting him yesterday, as well as his thumb, which also did come back negative. But I would not be surprised if our guy Anthony Davis does need to sit out a game, maybe 2. And he is a strong guy. It's just that his body, I don't know. I'm not quite sure, because ever since he came on to the professional scene, he has done a really good job. His body has developed. He's gotten a lot stronger. He's not as thick. He's not as thick, and I guess you could say husky, as like a DeMarcus Cousins or even Draymond Green, but he is a big guy, and he is pretty strong. And compared to what he was when he came into the league, he has definitely put on some weight and has strengthened his body. I just want his body to keep up, to be able to keep up so that he doesn't have to deal with all of these injuries. I know that guys go at him really hard, but if he could just keep up with it and take, just roll with the punches a little bit more. And it's not that he is a sissy player. It's just that his body just gets hurt a little bit easier than others. Moving on to the Magic and the Nuggets. The Magic took on the Nuggets over there in Denver, but lost to the Nuggets 112-125. Peyton for the Magic, he put up 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 12 assists. But it was not enough for the Magic to defeat the Nuggets. The Hornets took on the Boston Celtics, losing to them by 10 points, 98-108. Marvin Williams for the Charlotte Hornets had 21 points and 4 rebounds, but our guy Isaiah Thomas, he threw up 35 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. I would like some more assists coming from him, just being that point guard player. I love it when point guards put up at least, 7 assists, because it shows that they're really focusing on getting their teammates involved. It's great when they have 35 points like Isaiah had yesterday, but I love when they show that they're getting other players involved at the same time as well. And then the Cavaliers did take on the Warriors. We're going to jump into that game last. So the Jazz faced off against the Phoenix Suns and defeated them 106-101. Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz, he had 18 points, 17 rebounds, and 1 assist. So he's looking nice at that center position. And then Eric for the Phoenix Suns, he had 31 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists. So just one shy of not only a double-double, but even a triple-double for him with the Phoenix Suns. And then the Thunder, not looking too hot against the Clippers. They fell to them 98-120. Russell, he did, and again, Ben did say that he did foresee Russell's rebounds falling, and Russell, he had last night 24 points and only 5 rebounds and 4 assists. So he wasn't performing how we've been, getting accustomed to seeing him play in these last few games. But our guy DeAndre Jordan for the Clippers had 19 points, 15 rebounds, and 2 assists. So he had a great game for the Clippers yesterday. And Chris Paul did have to sit out the rest of the game, but Austin Rivers did, make up that deficit for the Clippers. And so they were able to secure that win over the Thunder, again, defeating them 98-120. And so the big game of the day was the Cleveland Cavaliers coming to the Oracle to face off against the Golden State Warriors at the Oracle Arena, Oakland, California. I did say that I thought that the Cleveland Cavaliers were going to come in and just wreck the Warriors home. But if you saw any of that game, no matter what time you tuned into the game, you saw that my prediction was, of course, 1,000% wrong, and that Ben actually had, some grounds for success yesterday. So early into the game, we saw the Golden State Warriors wanting to come out hot, and that it really did look like their game plan was to come out hot and pull away with the lead early and force the Cleveland Cavaliers to actually have to play catch up with the Warriors versus the Warriors trying to catch up to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Because when the Cleveland Cavaliers get that momentum, it's really hard to catch up with them because they just feed off the fact that you're trying to catch up. And so the Warriors did a really good job of reversing the roles in the game yesterday. And so they quickly came out. Steph Curry did quickly come out and put up a pair of points for the Warriors early. He did miss the next, I believe, 4 shots that he put up, but then that did not stop him. And that's another thing that the Warriors did discuss as well in the post-game interviews, is that even though when Steph Curry decides to be not hot, but attack the basket, whether he's hot or not, it drives everyone else to kind of, get into a quick groove. And it does force the defense to have to make decisions on whether or not they're going to worry about just Stephen Curry and if they decide to shift their defense to just be worried about Steph Curry, then that allows opportunities for everyone else on his squad. So that is something that the Warriors really did take advantage of yesterday. And what really worked in the favor for the Golden State Warriors is that the Cleveland Cavaliers only shot 35% from the field versus the Warriors 50% from the field. The Golden State Warriors also were shooting 44% from the 3-point line versus Cleveland's 26% from the free throw line. So, for a sold out arena, it was a great show, especially if you are a Warriors fan. You were loving it last night. The Warriors did defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers 126-91. And so if this, that's the thing though, this is great. I will not poo-poo on the Warriors win and dominating win at that against the Cavaliers, but they need to make sure that they take this into the postseason, because it's very, very likely that they will meet up again, that this is not the last that we will see them, especially when it comes to postseason play. So I hope that the Warriors will use this as kind of like the foundation for the drawing board when they go into the postseason, especially if they have the opportunity to match up again with the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James, he had 20 points, only shooting 6 of 18. And then Klay Thompson had 26 points. He was 8 of 17. So, not much better, but as far as points wise, he did have 6 more than the King. So that's going to actually take us into our first break of the episode. When we come back, there's some more news that I need to discuss with you guys, as well as some round the way scores from the hoop side. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. And before we jump into college hoops, I just wanted to give a quick preview of what's to come today as far as basketball games. We have the Toronto Raptors going to go visit the Brooklyn Nets. So I'm interested to see how that is going to play out as well. And then the Houston Rockets are going to see the Heat in Miami, Florida. James Harden, I'm expecting, will do very well. And if he can continue playing how he has been playing, like I said, and how we have been discussing, especially Ben and I have been discussing in previous episodes, he has continually gotten better and has been improving his game. So it's been exciting to see how well he has been playing now that he is being an unselfish player, but still putting in a lot of work. Like I said, he is averaging almost very, very close, I guess you could say, to a triple-double, but definitely averaging a double-double, with averaging 28 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 11 assists. So it's very nice to see how well he has been improving in his game. The Mavericks will take on the Chicago Bulls this evening, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific time in Chicago. Harrison Barnes, Jimmy Butler. I like Jimmy Butler. If you guys have seen the movie Office Party or Office Holiday Party, I don't know what the name of it is. It came out this past holiday season. He does make a cameo in that movie, and he is quite, I kind of giggled when I saw him in that movie. But anyway, so the Minnesota Timberwolves, our young Bucks and Karl Anthony Towns, will see the veteran Spurs this evening at San Antonio, Texas. So I am really looking forward to seeing that. As of course, many of us are assuming that the Spurs will teach the Timberwolves how the game is played. They are 14-5 at home, whereas the Timberwolves are 5-14 away. And then to wrap up this evening's games, we have the Denver Nuggets going to see the LA Lakers at the Staples Center. So we will see how that plays out as well, because the Nuggets are 7-12 away, whereas the Lakers are 10-12 at home. So as far as having a home court advantage and all of that is concerned, the Lakers have somewhat of an advantage, but it could go either way. So we will see how that goes. Ben will be giving you guys a update on what happens with this evening games tomorrow on the podcast. So keep a lookout for that. Now moving on as we continue into the college basketball sphere. So I have to give you guys the latest update as far as who is number 1, who is number 2, and number 3 on the top 25 rankings. It's so fun to me, the fact that within a week, your status can change. You can drop down a lot. You could even hop up quite a few slots on the totem pole as well. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but I did want to give you guys an update on the games that happened yesterday. So first we're going to start off with the first game, which was Villanova hosting actually Seton Hall. They defeated Seton Hall with a huge margin. Seton Hall was held to only 23 points the first half, as well as 23 points in the second half. So Villanova defeats them 76-46. Desi Rodriguez for Seton Hall had 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Jalen Brunson for Villanova had 13 points, 2 rebounds, and 6 assists. Kansas went to go see Iowa State and gave them a great game there, defeating them 76-72. Frank Mason III, he had 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 1 assist for Kansas, as well as Monte Morris for Iowa State. He put up 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Creighton went to go see Xavier and defeated them in Louisiana 72-67. Justin Patton for Creighton, he had 10 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 steals, so just shy of a double-double there. Syracuse went to go see North Carolina. They fell to North Carolina 68-85, putting them at 3-3 in the conference, whereas North Carolina is now improved to 5-1 in the ACC. Tyler Linden for Syracuse, he had 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 assist, whereas Justin Jackson for the North Carolina Tar Heels, he had 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Marquette went to go see Butler in the final game of the day, but fell to Butler 80-88. That puts Marquette at 3-3 in the Big East, whereas Butler is now 5-2 in the Big East. Keelan Martin for Butler, he put up 22 points, 7 rebounds, and he had 1 great block in that game as well. And so moving on to the rankings, like I said, it's so fun. And the reason why they do put out these rankings once a week is because anything can happen. And depending on who wins, it depends on who loses, it depends on who they beat and who they lose to even, can affect your status on the totem pole. And so Villanova, Coach Jay Wright, he is happy as we discuss this podcast, because he is back to being number 1 after being bumped down to actually number 3 just last week. So he bumped up after having 3 consecutive wins, including that blowout against Xavier. And so they have now moved up in the rankings back to number 1. So I'm sure Villanova and Coach Wright are happy, but no, not to get too comfortable because they have tasted what it feels like to lose that number 1 slot as well. And so Creighton, well, actually, before I get into Maurice Watson Jr. With Creighton and what happened with him, I want to first discuss who else is on that top 25. And so, like I said, we have Villanova sitting nicely at number 1, followed by the number 2, Kansas. So Villanova, their record as of right now is 17-1. Kansas has a record of 16-1, followed right behind with UCLA sitting at number 3. Now, UCLA is 18-1 as of right now, with Gonzaga right behind them sitting at number 4 with a record of 17-0. And like we said, Gonzaga right now is the only team without a loss, which is actually really impressive considering that they've had 17 games and 0 losses. Kentucky is sitting at number 5, and Baylor fell down to number 6 here in week 11 of our rankings, the with the AP top 25 rankings, excuse me. And then Creighton right now is currently tied at number 7 with West Virginia. Now Creighton has 17-1 for their record, whereas West Virginia is 15-2, followed closely behind by North Carolina sitting at number 9. And to wrap up that top 10 is Florida State with their record of 16-2. And so that's your top 10 as far as right now in week 11, as we are inching towards the, not finish line, but just inching towards the goal of getting into the NCAA tournament and where they are going to be ranked, the seeding for that major tournament, which I'm very, very excited and looking forward to. I'm actually planning on attending the tournament, which hopefully, if things go well, they are going to be hosting, I believe, rounds 1 and 2 here in Sacramento at the Golden One Center. So if I definitely get a chance to do that, you guys know that I will share that with you as well. And then when we come back from this last break of the episode, I want to discuss some injuries and some other news that's happening just around basketball and some things that we need to catch up on before we head out to the rest of our day. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and I will be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the last little bit of the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I've been your host, Pauline, and right before we get ready to wrap up this episode, hopefully I'll be able to speak a little bit better as we finish up this episode. But anyway, so I wanted to give you guys a preview of what to look forward to as we watch basketball all night long. On ESPN, you're going to find number 5 Kentucky going to go visit Mississippi State. I am looking forward to that game. That is for sure. We do know that Ben will be discussing that most definitely tomorrow, as Kentucky is his favorite team. If you have ESPN2 at 4 p.m. Pacific time, you can take a look at the Texas Longhorns as they go up against now number 6 Baylor. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Baylor plays in these next few games to try to inch back into the top 5 with the rankings of the top 25 rankings. And then you have Illinois also taking on number 21 Purdue in Indiana. So that's another great game if you're into watching Purdue. They are 3-2 in the Big Ten, whereas Illinois is 2-3 in their conference. Then you have Michigan going to go visit Madison, Wisconsin to take on Wisconsin. They are seeded number 17 at this time. Michigan is 2-3 in the Big Ten, whereas Wisconsin is 3-1. So I am looking forward to seeing that game as well, which will be on ESPN. Bronson Coing for the Wisconsin Badgers. He has 14 points per game and he's averaging 2 rebounds and 1 assist. So should be a good game. But then going on into kind of just some more news of what has been happening around the college hoops arena. Now, I did discuss with you guys earlier Creighton's game against Xavier. Now, Maurice Johnson Jr. for Creighton, he is being evaluated right now as we speak in regards to a possible meniscus injury that he suffered against Xavier last night. He has been leading the nation in assists. He averaged 8.8 assists a game. However, early in the first half, he did collide with an Xavier player. He did have to get helped off the floor. They decided to ice his knee, and he actually did return to the game. And so Maurice, like I said, he returned to the game. However, he did later in the game attempt a layup. It did look a little bit shaky when he was going up for that layup attempt. He then did actually scream out and clutch his left knee, and he actually had to be carried off the court the second time. He did describe it saying that he felt a pop the second time when he was leaving the court. He did also say that it didn't feel too bad, but now, and I quote, "But right now I gotta just live in that training room and try to get back for my team." So he did mention that there is no, at this time, structural ligament damage. So that is a good thing as far as knees are concerned, because we all know what can happen when you suffer a tear in the ACL or in the MCL. So good news for that. For Creighton and Maurice Watson Jr., like I said. However, he probably will need to be resting that knee for a little bit and just, like he said, staying in the training room so that he can rehab his knee. I would like to see, but you guys already know this about me. If you've been listening to the podcasts and previous episodes, I'm all about nursing the injury till it gets back to full health rather than going back out there. Because, and this is actually a pretty good example of that. He hurt his knee earlier in the first half and decided to go back and may have actually damaged it a little bit worse because he decided to go back into the game. But then again, it was determined, him and his coaching staff and the trainers there decided that he was still okay. So we'll see how he does in these next few weeks and see when we look forward to a possible return from him in the Creighton. So now moving on to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Now, North Carolina, they had a good win, okay, but Roy Williams actually has reached a milestone with 800 wins with that win last night against Syracuse, 83-68. And so he is officially in the 800 win club. As of right now, they are 17-3 overall with a 5-1 in conference play. And so it's just really cool. He said, and I quote, he says, "I haven't changed my beliefs and I haven't changed the foundation of what I want to do." He's had a really good season. He's molded seniors. It looks like Isaiah Hicks. He had 20 points and 8 rebounds against Syracuse, as well as Kennedy Meeks with his double-double at 15 points and 12 rebounds. So he has done a good job. And like I said, they are senior forwards. So he is not one of those guys that's going to push you for that one and done Kentucky lifestyle that he has, what they have going on over there, which is totally fine. And so it's really cool. And it's a great achievement. But with the achievement and coaching at North Carolina, where we all know that the great Michael Jordan, got his foundation from as well. And so Coach Williams was gifted custom Jordans to congratulate him on his 800th win. And I don't think that you will actually see that done anywhere else. He's probably the only, he is the only one with that pair of Jordans, but the only one who can receive a gift such as that from Michael Jordan himself. And so that's going to wrap up this episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. Ben will be with you guys tomorrow morning. Enjoy the rest of your day as well as all the basketball going on. So keep it locked here. I'll talk to you guys next time. This is the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.